is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Donnie, Alex, Jeremy, and Jeff Burton.
All right, so here we are, a new episode of the Last Minute Blues Podcast. Donnie Fandango joined by Jeremy Rutherford here in the studio, but we've got Alex Ferrario at home. Woo! Alex
Ferrario.
We got Alex Ferrario at home. He's cheering for himself, as a matter of fact, which I think is great.
I do it a lot. I have to do it at home. I've got 4 girls that live in this house now. I have to cheer for myself once in a while.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to absolutely welcome the newest member of the Last Minute Blues podcast family, and that is Olivia Ferrario. Congratulations, my
Thank you, guys. Look, I got the baby monitor right here. Everybody can see it. Probably is going to have a glare on it. Look at little baby Ferrario right there in her little satchel that she's sleeping in right now. Let me tell you guys something. I don't know what hard drugs feel like or act like, but what I do know is that having 3 kids feels a lot like being on drugs. That's what having 3 kids, all under the age of 3, feels like, because it is exhausting being a dad of 3 little kids. Donnie, I don't know what just happened, but when you ran away from one mic, that mic popped up, and now you're on another mic, and we don't see you.
So it was supposed to be this funny thing where I was going to run from one side to the other side, but so now the camera just turned on where I left because I was trying to get myself on. So now I feel like I'm completely like I'm running this ship without like a steering wheel.
So I think you can run back over there.
I think you should run back over.
Ready, go.
JR, ad-lib. Go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hey, that's
Donnie.
Do a lot of sweating when we're doing the friggin' podcast today.
Donnie, that camera went off now too. That camera's gone now.
You know what? Listen, here's what's going to
It's
happen.
like training camp.
All right, listen. First of all, I'm in terrible shape.
Alex, he's sweating.
Is he already?
Dude, absolutely. Are you kidding me? As much
That's
as
all right.
I've shed a few pounds here in the last couple months, I still got some more to shed.
That's all right.
So I don't know what's going to happen here. Either we're going to have the audio or the video, or we won't have the video this time. We are still in a new room here, guys, that's working out the kinks or whatever. So hopefully you'll see us. If not, I think you'll probably live. Okay, I wanted to mention a couple of things from the start here before we get into the reason that we're here today, and that's really to talk about these offer sheets that Doug Armstrong came in hard against the Edmonton Oilers earlier this week. But really quickly, and I know that you guys will dig this. Last night, I took my 2 kiddos, my 2 youngest, Ava and Dexter, to see Green Day, Rancid, and the Linda Lindas at a Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. And unfortunately, and I hate to admit this, but the way that I am with concerts now after I've been in radio for a long time is that I don't enjoy the shows as much as I used to. I would love to say that I love everyone, but it just does not hold the same weight. So last night, I'm taking the kiddos. Mary, who was going to go with us, said I was sick, didn't feel well, so I'm like, boy, oh boy. Hot night, 2 kids, here we go. And I was kind of like on the fence. I was like almost sort of, not dreading it, but like not super looking forward to it. We got there, and we saw this young punk band from California called the Linda Lindas. They're all made up of girls. I think they're all still in college or late high school, and they absolutely raged. They were freaking fantastic, and that's the reason that we got there so early, because my daughter wanted to see the Linda Lindas, which I love. Then punk rock icons Rancid. A band that I've seen live like 10 times. They are so good every single time. Now, I've seen Green Day a few times. And the last time that I saw them, I remember thinking, I think that I've seen them do this set before. And which I thought was like sort of kind of a drag. So in going into the show tomorrow, or last night, I was like, this will be good for the kids, blah, 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 whatever. So they came out, and before they even started, they played Bohemian Rhapsody from Queen, which is one of my son's very favorite songs. So he is sitting over there singing all the words, like, arms on the side, the whole thing. So Green Day comes out, and it is just rock and roll, fire, explosions. It is everything. And I look at my son, and he's closing his eyes because he's autistic, and so like stuff that's really bright throws him off. He's like trying to look through his hands to see what's going on. So I hand him my sunglasses, and he wore the sunglasses for the rest of the show.
Yes.
So Green Day did one new song. They did Dookie in its entirety, which
nice.
I didn't know how much I loved that record until I heard them do it last night.
Oh, phenomenal.
They did 4 or 5 songs, and then they went into American Idiot and did American Idiot in its entirety. Now, my son and I left a little bit early because that's how I roll with shows these days.
Hey, amen, brother.
My daughter stayed and for the first time saw a band in the lawn. So she saw the first half of Green Day with me, and the second half she met up with her friends in the lawn. And so I got home earlier than her, and as she's driving home with her friends, she sends me a text that says, "Dad, I feel different after that show." And it was just like, it just brought me back to when I saw Pearl Jam for the first time at the Fox Theater, and I was just, after I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I want everything to do with everything that this is. And so it was just, man, it was just awesome. And then on the way home, Dexter is high functioning, but he also has a tough time expressing himself sometimes. And so we're on the way home, we're on 270. And I'm like, buddy, you haven't said much, how was the show? Dad, it was great. The music was good, the fireworks, the fire, it was really good. I do want to see Poison again, but it was really good. so like, it was just one of those like super freaking rad, amazing nights. Dexter and I got out of there before friggin' it started raining cats and dogs.
Pouring.
So
Yeah.
that was really, really cool. And as I get to the end of this story, I didn't even remotely think about it could make Alex feel bad because we did not get to see Blink-182 last week because they canceled, and now I sort of feel like a dick. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, the entire time you're talking about this great concert and experience with your kids, the only thing I'm thinking of is, man, you're just rubbing this in right now because the one thing, like, Katie and I had a deal because she wasn't due until, like, August 14th, which was after Blink-182 had already performed in St. Louis. And so I told her, it's like, man, if you could have this baby early, I would love to go to the concert, which felt like being a terrible person. But she was like, no. She's like, if you want to go, it's like, as long as I'm home for a couple of days, I'll have my mom come over, help me with the kids, we'll be fine. Katie delivers on August 1st. I'm thinking, man, we are so far ahead. I am going to this concert.
In the clear.
I am going to be rocking out to Blink-182 with Donnie. And then those you-know-whats, those sons of you-know-what decide to just say, hey, we can't perform. The one thing I was looking forward to, Donnie, this summer, the one thing, on top of me having another baby, but the one
I was going to
thing,
say, that was number one.
the one
he was
thing, second to me having a new baby, was Blink-182, and they ruined that for me.
And what was also like really kind of awful about it and made me feel even worse was that like the press release was like, sorry guys, hope to see you next time.
Oh, I know.
Like, it was like the Moose at Wally World. Like it was just like, it was just such like, oh my God. Like,
I haven't seen him since 2006, and when they posted that, I'm like, oh, cool, so I won't see him for another 20 years.
So I don't know if this is 100% true, but I'm pretty sure it's at least 90% true. So Tom DeLonge was sick in Milwaukee the couple nights before the St. Louis show. So, and they had to end that show early. So we knew that was kind of a lingering thing. The part that I found out after the fact is that I believe that they have booked studio time imminently, like exactly when the tour was supposed to be over, and they have a ton of new stuff that they're ready to record, and so they were not in a position in which that they could add tour dates after to like make up for this. That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's 100% true, and even if it is true, it doesn't freaking make it any better.
Yeah.
It still sucks.
No.
But
if you're telling me the light at the end of the rainbow is more music from Blink-182, then cool.
Well, no,
I'll see you next time
that's
around.
absolutely the case too, because they have like and I'm sorry that this is becoming a music podcast all of a sudden.
Yeah,
but,
Jared, what do you think of Blink-182?
Who?
So I think the one really great thing about Blink right now is that Mark, Tom, and Travis are so excited to be in a band together again that they are writing a lot. Therefore, as long as Mark's health continues to be good, because he is a cancer survivor, like as long as that continue, I think that we're going to see them I think that you will get the chance. Again, not that that makes anything any better.
As long as I'm going with Donnie, that's all that matters to me.
Oh, that's happening, buddy. That is happening. So, guys, I think it's probably a good time at this point of the podcast to talk about hockey. What do you say?
Oh,
We've
done a sprint. We've congratulated Alex. I can't believe you didn't take Olivia to the concert, though, last night, Donnie. You could have given Alex a night off.
I did really want to bring up, though, that I've heard in the music world that Rascal Flatts might be getting back together. Guys, thoughts?
Are they even broken up? Like, who cares?
Come on, Donnie. That's whoa. Can
we talk about some offer sheets? I think I would prefer to talk about Chicago Blackhawks than Rascal Flatts. If we really break it down.
That is not true.
No, it's absolutely true, Alex. It's absolutely true. Okay, so guys, let's first and foremost, I want to give credit where it's due. Because Alex talked about this, about the possibility of this sort of offer sheet situation a couple of podcasts ago, and I believe you specifically mentioned Edmonton, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I mentioned Broberg to be exact because it was a young defenseman for a team that was in cap hell.
So, talk about this, guys. First and foremost, I just want you guys, and Alex, Jeremy, whichever, explain what the offer sheet is to anybody that doesn't understand, because it does get a little in the weeds and a little complicated, or it's just a little different than what we're used to.
Yeah, it does. Essentially, it boils down to this. You have your unrestricted free agents, and those are the guys that can go wherever. So July 1st, big names, big dollars, they're signing with different teams. There's also restricted free agents. So the current team still has their rights, and they're negotiating a contract. But if these players don't like what they're hearing from the team and don't want to sign with their current team, once July 1st hits, other teams can talk to them and eventually, if they want to, put out an offer sheet. So this has been in the rule book for years and years. You just don't see it very often because you don't typically see GMs play quote-unquote dirty like this, because you're essentially trying to swipe players from a team that already has them and drafted them and has groomed them the past couple of years, and maybe they're not ready to pay them. But that's why, players have the PA, the Players Association, and they put these rules in place so that players can get the type of money that other teams might think they deserve. So here comes Doug Armstrong, and gosh, you're talking about, I think there's been 10 offer sheets since 2005-06, and he puts two on the same team on the same day. And so we all know the news by now. Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, those are the two players from the Edmonton Oilers. So what happens is the Blues negotiate a contract with these two players. They agree to it, and then they file the offer sheets with the league. And now Edmonton has 7 days, which is going to be, it expires Tuesday morning, I think 9:30 Eastern time. And Edmonton could announce while we're doing the podcast, but they have until...
With just our luck, they probably will.
Yeah, it'll be afterwards.
But they have until Tuesday to announce, and then the Blues, find out, did they get one player, did they get two, did they get neither, and move forward from there. So it's just it's a mechanism to get young players, restricted free agents. The Blues could be going through the same thing with Jake Neighbors. Next year, his contract expires. He's an Edmonton area guy.
Oh, come on, JR. Enough of that.
All right. So let me talk about this real quick.
Yep.
So it is a tool, though, in the toolbox. Is it Stan Bowman in Edmonton now?
Yeah.
Does he view it as an FU, like the Edmonton fan base views it as an FU? If you're a GM worth your salt, you probably had to sort of know that this could potentially be coming, or you're probably not very good at your gig, right?
Yeah, and it's a situation. He just got the job July 24th. And here's the intrigue that I included in my story at The Athletic the other day. Ken Holland was the previous GM for the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah. Ken Holland and Doug Armstrong are super tight. I can't imagine in a million years Doug Armstrong does this to Ken Holland. Even though he wants to help the team, maybe he would have done it. I don't see it. But Stan Bowman comes in, and you're asking the question, is this an FU to Stan Bowman? I think all the general managers realize that business is business, however you can improve your team. But yes, unequivocally, you put offer sheets on another GM. I don't think those GMs, whoever it is, Bowman, Armstrong, I don't think those two GMs are going for coffee anytime soon when a situation like that happens.
So,
Which I don't think they were going for coffee prior to. I think Elliot Friedman said it on his podcast he did a couple of days ago. He's like, there's a lot of theories going around. One is what JR mentioned, that Ken Holland and Doug Armstrong are golf buddies and he wouldn't have done it. Is that the other theory is Pete Chiarelli, who works with Doug, doesn't like Edmonton and wants to screw him over. And then the one he throws out there, he's like, well, Doug Armstrong and Stan Bowman don't like each other and haven't for a long time. That's another theory.
wow. See, because to me, a fan perspective, outsider looking in, I think to myself, if the fans are getting this jacked up, most of the time, it's just the fans being the fans. But this is all right. So now that this isn't just a middle finger, this is a double middle finger. I mean, this is a couple.
And here's the thing, and I hope that's true that he dislikes Stan Bowman and he took advantage of a situation.
He hopes he liked.
It would be like the one thing I want is Doug when he gives the press conference and the Blues get both players. Doug being like, "Well, Stan Bowman was there, and I thought, why not?" But here's the thing, and I'd like to go on a little bit of a rant here today, guys. Maybe it's because I've been
I like it when it's not me.
I've been cooped up in a closet. I've only been talking to toddlers for the last 2 weeks. There's no adult interaction other than with my wife.
Kids.
That's true. And Tanner. The people that are complaining about offer sheets and how this is a jerk move, a ruthless move by Doug Armstrong, it's literally one group of fans, and it's the Edmonton Oilers, because everybody else in hockey loves this type of stuff. I hate the taboo nature of a restricted free agent with offer sheets. Look how excited we all are in August, middle of August, when it is the dead period in the National Hockey League, that there's offer sheets being given to players. Guys, TSN is talking about this, and I understand it's Edmonton, but you've got them, SportsCenter. Everybody is talking about the Blues offer sheeting to young players from the Edmonton Oilers. This needs to be a regular occurrence. When we had Craig Button on prior to the draft, and I love Craig Button. He's blunt, he's honest, he goes straight to the point. I asked him about offer sheets because I just assumed this was a perfect chance because Doug brought it up. And Craig Button just shut me down immediately, and he was like, no. He's like, when's the last time an offer sheet took place? The Carolina Hurricanes and Montreal Canadiens? He's like, offer sheets don't happen. It's a threat that GMs use, and nobody uses it. Well, I'm glad Doug Armstrong laid the big cojones down and said, I'll use the threat, and I'll go after a team that is in such a bad salary cap situation that I'll take advantage of these RFAs. I hope more GMs see that and say, we can start handing out offer sheets more now. And it happens on a yearly basis.
Yeah, I wonder, though, if it would take the Blues getting one or both of these players and then having it develop a year or two down the road where they become a good player. So let's say 4 or 5 years down the road, they're saying, hey, look what Doug did. Like, he improved his team.
Yeah.
He helped that left side of the defense because he went out and made the offer sheet to Edmonton. Like, I like Alex's point. I just wonder that if Edmonton matches and the Blues get neither one of these players, do you see an increase in offer sheets in a couple years? I don't know, probably be status quo.
Sure, I got it. Yeah. All right, so guys, I want to talk specifically about both of these players, and I want you guys to tell us about them. I know they're both former first-round draft picks. I know one's a defenseman. I know one's a forward. But I want you guys to tell us how these players, if this works out, they come here, they become Blues. Why does Doug Armstrong want them in the fold? That's the better question I'm trying to ask.
And I'll start here, JR, if that's all right, because Broberg was the one for me that really piqued my interest because of the glaring hole that the Blues have on the left side of their defense. They need a left-handed defenseman who's young, who has the potential to be a top 4, top pair type of guy, and there's nobody in their system with the exception of Theo Lindstein that has that. And so you just looked at the defensemen that were out there, like people brought up Thomas Harley's name with the Dallas Stars. I didn't see that happening. And then you looked at the Edmonton Oilers, and they're in cap hell. And you're thinking, okay, there's this 22-year-old kid who's a 8th overall pick, and I think it was back in 2019, that really has never gotten a shot with the Edmonton Oilers. We talked with Mark Spector, longtime covers the Edmonton Oilers, yesterday, and he talked about how what Philip Broberg has gone through is no shot against him to where it's, the guy hasn't developed properly. Maybe it's a little of it, but he said it's been more the coaching staff not wanting to use him. Jay Woodcroft, who was there prior, every time Philip Broberg had a chance to get in the lineup, they opted to go with more of a veteran player and keep him as a 7th defenseman. And when they got to the point where Broberg wanted to play, they sent him down to the American Hockey League and he played. That's why you haven't seen him at the NHL for 81 games. But in the postseason, their new head coach basically said, well, this guy gives us a better chance to win than some of these other guys that are paying third-pair defensemen. And look at what Philip Broberg did. He picked up 8 points. It was a plus 11 in a series against the Dallas Stars and the Florida Panthers. That's the part that I find so important in this. Like, this is a 22-year-old kid who was playing 16 minutes a night in the Western Conference Final and the Stanley Cup Final and finished as a plus 11. Everything I've read about Philip Broberg, because you know I've nerded out and done deep dives on this kid, everything I've read says that his best skill is his skating and his ability to transition the puck. He makes some mistakes on defense, makes sense considering he's 22, and he's never going to be a high points guy. But he's a player that is 22 years old and shown the ability in the postseason for Edmonton when he got the chance. Now imagine what that 22-year-old can do if he comes to a team and plays 18, 19 minutes a night consistently in your top four. He's the one I'm most excited about.
And he's big and he can skate down. He 6'3", 6'4", 212 pounds. In their interview with Mark Spector, who friend covers the Edmonton Oilers that he touched on. Also, I've been talking to the athletic writer up there, Daniel Nugent-Bowman, and they said he can skate, just a great skater, fluid skater, skates himself out of trouble, a la Jay Bouwmeester. So you're talking about a big, lanky guy who can skate. He would fit great in that second pair, and you just keep going back to the age. That's a thing. I mean, Alex talks about making mistakes. I don't know which defenseman, 23, 24, and that's what Alex is saying. He's a young guy. Eventually, those are going to become less, in terms of less happening on the ice with Philip Broberg. And then Dylan Holloway, he's a guy I think, Donnie, he can be a middle six guy, probably more a third line guy, but he did play up a little bit in the lineup in Edmonton when needed. But I think his future is as a third line guy, and I think he would fit in terms of what the Blues are looking for, that age group. I think Broberg 22 going on 23, Dylan Holloway same first round draft pick, now 22 years old. He's a guy who can come in and be a guy that you can count on for several years, as opposed to, well, he might be here just for a couple years and help fill in the gaps.
And I'll reference this, Donnie, because I know you didn't read his piece on the Athletic, but JR put it together.
You guys are your hot shots, man.
The pairing that JR put together in his piece is exactly the way that I see this top six framing out if they do get Philip Broberg, of having Leddy and Parayko stick together with the hope that Broberg can become a partner for Colton Parayko down the road. But you've got a Broberg playing with a Justin Falk, which that's two mobile defensemen. One's got the offensive ability, the other's big and lanky and can play on defense. And then you've got Suter and Kessel. That top six, I'm not sure. Not that I'm not sure. I believe that top six is better than what you've had in your top six over the last 2 years. And that, to me, is a massive improvement, and that's just with a kid who's 22 years old.
All right, so let's talk about this, guys, from the Edmonton point of view, or just get your perspective on what you think Edmonton's play here is, because I have read, conflicting things where people are like, oh, they're definitely going to keep Broberg. Why wouldn't you keep Broberg? But then I believe his salary becomes a bit of an issue. Holloway seems like the one that they could afford a little bit more. And he's still young. How do you guys see this shaken down if you had to wear the Edmonton hat here?
Yeah, so here's the thing. People probably have seen it already that they're in cap hell, right? Edmonton Oilers. If they match these two offers, they're $7.2 million over the cap. Now, part of the reason why it's probably taken the Oilers a long time to answer whether they're going to match, and maybe they use up all 7 days, is because I think they're trying to move a couple players on their roster to free up cap space to potentially keep one or both of these guys, Broberg, Holloway. But what do they have to do to make these trades, whether it's like a Cody Ceci? These are guys who have no trade clauses. Teams probably aren't, calling the Edmonton Oilers, getting in line, trying to get a Cody Ceci. So maybe they have to attach a draft pick or other players to get somebody to take Cody Ceci off their roster. So I think that's why this thing could play out a couple more days, and Edmonton uses up the 7 days. So teams can go, you might ask the question, $7.2 million over the cap. Like, how's that possible? Well, in the summer, you can go 10% over. So they actually could match both of these this week. They would be well over the cap, but still under the 10%. And then they'd have until the start of the season to be able to figure it out.
And they have the Evander Kane pending long-term IR situation, even though that seems to be a little bit confusing too, because it seems like media reports have came out that said Kane says one thing and that the Oilers are saying kind of another thing, or maybe I'm reading that wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like, the way that I've read it is like Evander Kane is going to go to LTIR. The question is going to be how long can he realistically stay on LTIR? I think a lot of people, even Spectre had told us yesterday that like you could put Kane on LTIR, but like you're talking probably he would be ready to come back by January, February. Like there's no way you can hold Evander Kane on LTIR until the postseason because he's going to be healed by then. And so if he goes on it, I believe it would be they're still $1.8 million over the cap. And so they have a couple of options. They could put guys on waivers, younger players, and send them down. But the problem with that is then you're going to be playing rosters short with like 11 forwards and 6 defensemen, and we all know how much of a disaster that can be. Or, as JR just mentioned, you're talking about trading one of Brett Kulak or Cody Ceci. So, like, even putting Evander Kane still puts them in a position that you have to trade somebody. And the real question then is how much draft capital are you going to have to attach to one of these players to make another team take that player on? And Stan Bowman has to take that into consideration because Edmonton, like this year, they don't have a first or a second round pick. They have a third round pick. They have 2 fourths, a sixth, and a seventh. If this team wants to win a Stanley Cup this year, they don't have the capital for this season to trade to bring something in at the trade deadline. So that's why you ask kind of what my gut reaction is. I have a real feeling that both are going to get claimed by the Blues, and Edmonton's not going to offer either of those guys. Like, maybe there's a chance Dylan Holloway gets matched because they can handle $2.2 million. I don't see any scenario that they match Philip Broberg because back in January, if I'm not mistaken, Edmonton or Philip Broberg's agent requested a trade from Edmonton, and they were looking for something. They were trying to figure out. Nothing came to fruition. They played him, but they played him on the right side a lot in the postseason, and he wants to play on the left side. And if you look at the two guys they're talking about getting rid of, Brett Kulak or Cody Ceci, the one that makes the most sense would be a Cody Ceci because he's only got this year, and then he's a UFA, so other teams would be more willing to take it on. But that's a right-handed defenseman, and Broberg wants to play on the left side. And I'm not sure if a team that wants to win the Stanley Cup this year, let me rephrase that. I'm not sure if a team that needs to win a Stanley Cup this year in the Edmonton Oilers can afford to trade away a 30-year-old, 2 pairs of 30-year-old defensemen who have playoff experience for a 23-year-old who just had his first taste of the postseason with the Edmonton Oilers. Oh, by the way, they're going to have to pay an extra $9 million next year for both Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard. My gut tells me that both Holloway and Broberg are going to be a Blue by next Tuesday.
Yeah, and especially you mentioned trade 2 30-year-old defensemen. Also, you got Ekholm, 34 years old, so long in the tooth. How long is he going to be there? I think he's got another year or 2 left on his deal. But Matthias Ekholm, a guy who they're counting on now to help him win the Stanley Cup, but he's not going to be around forever, and you're going to need a guy like Broberg coming up through the system. That's why, it makes a lot of sense for them to try to keep him if they can, but I don't, like Alex said, I don't know if they will be.
All right, so here's the thing, and I hate to be this guy that has to wrap it up, but I got 6 other things I friggin' have to do today. But I want to ask...
What?
Right. Thank you, Alex. No, but what I want to ask you guys, and listen, I get kind of lost in this as a fan. In talking to other people that know, and when we talk about the Blues, the first thing that they say is, well, this is not going to be a great team. This is not necessarily going to be a playoff team. And I just still, in my head, I can't accept that, all right? So maybe this is kind of a moot point for me specifically, but guys, if you get Broberg, specifically Broberg, to me, does this speed up this sort of rebuilding situation that Armstrong's talking about? Does this fast forward us any in that particular, in you guys' mind frame? Does this make the Blues better to be more of a contender this year?
I think,
or is that just me being,
I think Broberg. I mean, if people had complaints with Torrey Krug in this defense for a couple years, right? So if you're taking out of Torrey Krug, and this is a tough situation with him because he could be injured, need surgery, be out for the year. But if you're plugging in a 23-year-old guy who's going to be here for the long term with your organization, he makes you better right there on that spot, right? I think this defense is really deep right now. Now, listen, not a lot of these names are going to wow you when you talk about the guys they brought in with, Joseph and, some of the other guys that are going to play in this defense. But collectively, I think they're deep and they're pretty decent. Same with the forwards. Alex talked about the lineup that I put together at the Athletic yesterday. With this forward, I mean, you're talking about a potential of Holloway. Faksa, I get it. He's slow, but he's a veteran. He's got experience. Then you could have a Matthew Joseph up there. You could have Alexei Toropchenko. I mean, there's just so much depth, I think, with this group that to answer the question, are they a playoff team? I think if you get one or both of these guys, you're a better team on paper than you were last year. I think this is a team that can still be in that wild card spot. I don't think you're 1, 2, or 3 in the Central, but I think you're entertaining a wild card spot, and I think you have a better chance of getting in.
Alex, so that's where I'm at. I actually do believe that they're a fringe playoff team because I think the Western Conference has significantly improved.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter like how much better you've gotten because like Nashville's improved, Dallas has improved, Vancouver, Edmonton, depending on what the outcome of this is. Like there have been teams that have gotten better. But here's my thought process on it. Like, you're 92 points last year, and you were a -11 in goal differential. Let's just go down the path that Binnington plays the exact same level, and he's the same goaltender for you. So if you're putting Ryan Suter and Philip Broberg into this defense over Marco Scandella, Tyler Tucker, Scott Perunovich, and Torrey Krug, to me that makes you better in the goal differential. So I don't know if you're talking about being a -11. Maybe you're talking about being like a -1 or 2 or in the positive. And if you're in the positive, to me, that means you're winning a couple of more games, which means you might be talking about 95, 96 points. I think that's going to be enough to make the playoffs, but that's going to really come down to what Utah does, what Minnesota does, and what Nashville does. It's going to be the utmost importance to win head-to-head matchups against Central Division teams this year, but I think that you've improved your defense. JR said it, you've got depth on forward. Like if Holloway's here, Zach Bolduc is playing in the minor leagues this season, which I think is massively big for this team to have him playing in the minors anytime can be called up. I think you're a playoff team, or at least a fringe playoff team fighting with these other teams.
And I know that we can talk about this a little bit more, once we figure out what goes on with with the offer sheets. But guys, this one player just keeps popping up in my mind as we're talking about this defensive core, and we're not mentioning this player. Does this, let's say Broberg is brought into the mix, does this, is the Scott Perunovich experiment coming to an end here? Do you maybe see him as somebody that might get moved? Or, I guess there's so many questions when it comes to that back end and what the depth will look like, but doesn't it seem like it's sort of pushing him a little further outside of that top 6 than he was before?
Yeah, and I think if Broberg comes in and he plays in that second pair with Falk like we kind of envision here, I don't think Ryan Suter signed here, nor did they talk to him about coming here and not playing. Like maybe eventually if things aren't working out, he's not playing well, maybe he's your 7 at some point, but I think he's going to play, and so I think it could potentially push Scott Perunovich out. Alex, one thing, we had to brush up on our offer sheet knowledge here once this happened. Like it's been a while since I dealt with this. I at first thought that a trade possibility between the Blues and Edmonton. I didn't know if that was possible under the terms of the collective bargaining agreement. Now we know that it is. So could the Blues include a Scott Perunovich or some sort of combination to make a trade with Edmonton to facilitate this? Now after reading up a little bit, we know that this is something that could happen. I don't know if that's something that the Blues would consider. Maybe they want to have Perunovich around. Maybe they want to find a different trade for Scott Perunovich. Maybe there's do you want these players? Match them. If not, they're ours. We're not trading you anything. I don't know, but I do think that Scott Perunovich is going to have a tough time if that's the group of defensemen. The one thing, Alex, he can quarterback a power play, and not many of these guys back on the blue line can. So I think that kind of helps his case a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the important thing, too, what JR mentioned with the trade terms. Like, you can make other moves, but if I'm not mistaken, JR, Broberg and Holloway cannot be moved for a year if they get the offer matched by Edmonton, correct?
Right. So the way I understand it, that's if Edmonton matches them. They can't move once they go back on Edmonton's roster. But the way I read it is that the Blues and Edmonton, to make this all work with Broberg, Holloway, and the Blues, if they said, hey, we're not going to match, let's make a deal, there could be compensation
they
going
could
back.
trade Broberg and Holloway for the draft picks and, let's say, a position player, and then make a deal.
Now, that's the way I understand it.
Yeah. So, to the Perunovich question, Donnie, for me, there's not a top 6 role for Scott Perunovich if Broberg is on this team. So now you're talking about a 7th defenseman, and I would imagine they're not carrying more than 7 defensemen. Maybe they carry 8. They've done it in the past, but my gut tells me they're not carrying 7. And if you're talking about a 7th defenseman, I would feel like a guy like Drew Bannister and Claude Julien are going to want players like Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who's a big body who could play both on offense and defense, or a Tyler Tucker who has that physical presence if you need him in a certain game, over just a power play quarterback in Scott Perunovich. Now, all of this comes down to training camp, and does Scott Perunovich outplay both of those players? That's going to be the biggest question in all of this, but it's going to be an uphill battle if Scott Perunovich wants to be on the NHL roster. And now you're talking about, do you facilitate a trade, or do the Blues try and sneak a player through waivers?
All right. Well, also, too, something to keep in mind for Blues fans, that prospect tournament with the Blues, the Hawks, and the Wild is going to be at Centene. I think it's September 13th through 15th. So not only are you going to get to see great Blues prospects, but also Wild prospects and people that you're going to hate for the rest of your life that are Blackhawk prospects.
Yeah. If Blues fans are unfamiliar with what you're talking about there, Donnie, the Tom Curver Showcase, it's
Oh, it has a fancy name?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's the Minnesota Wild, it's the Blues, and it's the Blackhawks. 3 teams. It's round robin. So last year it was in Minnesota. This year it's at Centene. Next year it'll be in Chicago, and it's the top prospects. You're going to see Dalibor Dvorsky and a lot of the Blues prospects out there. It's September 13th, 14th, and 15th at Centene. And not only do they have practices, but they're going to have some scrimmage games against
And all of it's free.
Free, yep.
And JR, I don't know if you heard this, but this was breaking news that I heard. The Blues are going to have Donnie Fandango be the sideline reporter for the Chicago Blackhawks.
For the Blackhawks.
Yeah,
Dude,
just for the Blackhawks.
I'll quit. Well, no, wait. I got to see what the money is first.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's free. It's free. You're not getting paid.
Oh, well, then I'm absolutely not doing it. I was at a thrift store the other day, and I saw this absolutely bad-ass Blackhawk Winter Classic T-shirt. And I was like, oh, God, this is so cool. I would never put this on my body or let it walk through the door of my house. Like, there's just absolutely no freaking way that that's going to happen. So I wanted to mention that. And then also, too, and I want to mention this I do not want to mention this in a way to bring everybody down. That is not the point of this. But it has been 2 years yesterday since we lost Mr. Jeff Burton. And and listen, here's the thing. I'm absolutely finally at the point where I can talk about that dude without crying. And here's one thing that I can absolutely know is that he would be so freaking stoked that the podcast continues, and we continue to do this, and we continue to talk about hockey. And I really believe that this is going to be the year that we are going to get the Jeff Burton Skate Boy Skate Last Minute Blues podcast T-shirt. I'm trying.
Nice.
I'm working. I'm trying. But I just think that wherever dude is up there now, he's either got a cigar or a joint, and he's looking at porn, and he's looking down on us, going, "Hey guys, are you sure Clem Costin can't work into this mix somehow?"
Clem Shady.
All right, so
if we're gonna do the Skate Boy Skate T-shirt, we need to get a picture of Halle Berry T-shirt and have the full no movement clause on it from Jeff Burton in honor of his trade deadline appearance on our show.
I still have that break saved in my email. Like, it's just it's so great. All right,
I'll take Halle Berry with a full no movement clause.
So I'm so sorry, guys, but I got to go be on the point.
Oh, that
here,
makes sense.
This afternoon. But Alex, I think we're going to actually see you at the station next week, and I bet you're very excited about that.
I am back with human interaction next week, ladies and gentlemen.
We love it. For Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, JR, you're the man. Alex Ferrario back home with the fam. And in memory of our buddy Jeff Burton, it is the Last Minute Blues podcast. I am Donnie Fandango, and we're going to close this out and hope that this works the way that it's supposed to.
The Last Minute Blues podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com.